During the Cold War, the US Army's heaviest artillery was a nuclear missile. The Pershing II was the Army's longest range and heaviest hitting system of the 1980s. A terminally guided, two-stage tactical nuclear missile, it was armed with a W-85 variable yield nuclear warhead that could strike out to 1,800 kilometers. These were pretty precious assets. Other than 3rd Battalion 9th Field Artillery in the continental US, the primary American operator of Pershings was the 56th Field Artillery Command in Germany. Before 1986, it was a brigade, and before 1970, a group. The 56th always controlled 3 missile battalions, although they underwent an Army of Excellence reorganization and reflaggings in 1986. The Pershing battalions as of the mid-80s were the 1st, 2nd, and 4th battalions of the 9th Field Artillery, although each had a different parent regiment before 1986. These units were tasked with providing general nuclear fire support to the theater commander. In addition to these fire units and the supporting units you'd expect, the 56th had one peculiar unit, the 2nd Battalion, 4th Infantry. Blue cord-draped Pershing tab-wearing infantrymen whose task it was to recon routes ahead of firing platoon advance parties and provide an outer ring of security for the Pershing firing positions. It was their job to perform security sweeps in a 5-kilometer bubble outside of the firing unit's perimeter, although not within the firing positions to avoid giving them away. They manned listening and observation posts and conducted roving patrols. While they were originally a regular leg infantry battalion, under Army of Excellence in the mid-80s, they were given a bespoke TO&E due to the increased security demands with the deployment of the new Pershing II to Europe. What they got was basically a mix of an infantry battalion and military police outfit in terms of structure. This battalion was pretty interesting, not only because its rifle companies were completely motorized and it was probably the largest rifle company design at the time, but they had the best motorized rifle squad organization the US Army ever developed despite their very niche tasking. It's also a great excuse to use my Atomic Army's title card, which I'm just going to talk through because people tend to click off title cards. But I'm just going to ruin that retention anyway by shouting out the 13th Air Mobile Regiment, the Battle Order Task Force most aligned to the video topic and full of my supporters who keep these videos coming. Join up at the links in my description. But anyway, starting at the lowest level, rifle squads in the 56th Field Artillery Command had 11 soldiers, just as God intended. It came under the overall leadership of a staff sergeant, with 2 sergeants in charge of 2 fire teams, Alpha and Bravo. Each was 5 men, with 1 specialist automatic rifleman and grenadier per team. One team would also get an anti-armor specialist, and they'd split 3 private first-class riflemen. Everyone except for the automatic riflemen were authorized M16s, with the grenadiers also getting M203 underbarrel grenade launchers. In the mid-80s, the M249 SAW was also entering TO&Es for automatic riflemen, although if they weren't issued, the doctrinal alternative was an M16A1 with a clip-on bipod. The squad also had 1 Dragon anti-tank guided missile. In addition to these organic elements, the platoon HQ also provided each squad with a specialist machine gunner with his own M60 medium machine gun and pistol, as well as a private first-class anti-armor specialist. He didn't bring a key weapon other than his rifle though. He'd form a team with the squad's own anti-armor specialist. It didn't end here. The entire unit was heavily motorized, and the squad was split between 2 vehicles. A Humvee armament carrier with an organic M60 machine gun, and a Humvee troop cargo carrier for moving the bulk of the squad. It's a little difficult to say who did what in the vehicles because it was probably dictated by SOP and might not have lined up with the TO&E anyway. I also don't have the issue schedule for this unit as the Humvee was new equipment just entering TO&Es at the time, but it's likely that 2 of the PFC riflemen acted as drivers, with the attached machine gunner and possibly a team leader on the armament carrier. When halted, even if 2 to 3 men were left behind per vehicle to secure them, this still left 8 to 9 personnel to fight dismounted. Not too shabby. This was unironically a much more capable design than the actual 9th Motorized Infantry Division rifle squad structure, which only had 8 men total, 6 to fight dismounted if 2 stayed back with the vehicle. They did also get M998T interim squad carriers with roll bars, seatbelts, and a Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher, but unga bunga bayonet strength. Each rifle platoon consisted of 3 of these rifle squads, plus the platoon HQ with its own Humvee. Other than the personnel detached to rifle squads, they had the platoon leader, platoon sergeant, and a radio operator. One level up, the rifle companies were pretty thick. 4 rifle platoons plus an additional scout platoon. This platoon was equipped with 8 M60 armed Humvee armament carriers with 3 soldiers each. These were split into a platoon HQ and 3 scout sections. Each had a specialist and PFC scout, the PFC being the driver generally. The platoon leader and platoon sergeant each commanded a truck, while the scout sections had a staff sergeant leader and sergeant assistant in command. Aside from these functional elements, the company HQ was relatively typical. A company commander, executive officer, first sergeant, supply sergeant and specialist, communication maintenance supervisor and specialist, NBC NCO, armorer, and 2 RTOs. The junior enlisted acted as drivers for the HQ's 2 Humvees and 3 2.5-ton trucks, one with a 1.5-ton cargo trailer and 2 with 50 cal machine guns. They also had 1 spare Dragon ATGM. With 203 personnel, these companies had 78 more personnel than the Light Rifle Company of the time and the 9th Infantry Division's Motorized Rifle Company. The Battalion HQ company also furnished each rifle company with a maintenance team with 2 Humvees and 3/4-ton trailers. I'm not sure if one of them was a contact truck or not, plus a company mess team with a 2.5-ton truck and a water trailer. There were also enough combat medics in the HHC to provide each rifle platoon with 1, plus a Humvee ambulance per company, although I'm not sure if these were directly attached. Enough 5-ton wreckers for 1 per company were held at the battalion level. The battalion had its HHC and 3 rifle companies lettered Alpha through Charlie. Each was designed to directly support 1 Pershing missile battalion dispersed. The battalion HQ also had its own identical rifle platoon and scout platoon, which provided a reserve and also furnished security for command-level assets. Unfortunately for the 56th, or fortunately for the rest of us, the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty between the US and Soviet Union banned ground-launched ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and missile launchers with ranges of 500 to 5,500 kilometers. This meant the complete dismantlement of the Pershing missile force was to be accomplished by 1991. It was actually done before the Soviet Union fell. As a result, the 56th Field Artillery Command and 2nd Battalion, 4th Infantry were inactivated on 30 June and 15 May 1991 respectively. Though today, after the modular force reform of the mid-2000s, the 2-4 infantry lineage is carried by a light infantry battalion within the 10th Mountain Division's 3rd BCT at Fort Polk, Louisiana. A little more mundane than being the first guys to be nuked.